Hello and welcome to The Pulse, the show where we discuss issues concerning us, you, me and the society at large. My name is Tina Jha. On the show today, we talk about cyberbullying, a form of harassment that takes place using electronic means. The increasing access to affordable data service has given rise to this faceless evil worldwide. Young children in particular, teenagers, being the most vulnerable victims. 1 in every 3 young people have reported to be a victim of cyberbullying, according to a survey conducted by UNICEF in as many as 30 countries. The poll found that nearly 1 in 5 parents worldwide said their child had experienced cyberbullying at least once. And according to a majority of respondents, social networks, including Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat and Twitter are the most commonplace sites on which cyberbullying occurs. The problem is particularly bad in India, which had the highest rate of parents confirming instances of cyberbullying. A total of 37% of parents across the country said their child was bullied online. 14% among them said the bullying occurred on a regular basis. Studies also show cyberbullying can cause profound harm, as it can quickly reach a wide audience and can remain accessible online indefinitely, virtually following its victims online for life. On this edition of The Pulse, we analyze the damaging and deadly consequences of cyberbullying, what has led to its prevalence in recent years, and how can we prevent or report cyberbullying. Joining me on the program today are Karnika Seth. She is cyber law expert and an advocate in the Supreme Court. Next to her is Dr. Smita Deshpande, Professor, Department of Psychiatry, Center of Excellence in Mental Health, Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia Hospital. Next to ma'am is Mr. Anuj Agarwal. He is Chairman, Center for Research on Cybercrime and Cyber Law. He is also a law enforcement trainer. Next to him is Dr. Angel Ratnabai. She is Assistant Professor, Central Institute of Education Technology, NCERT, and Mr. Anish Roy, DCP Cybercrime, Delhi Police. Welcome to the show to all my guests. And besides all these distinguished panelists in the studio, we're also being joined by Mr. Mukesh Chaudhary. He's cybercrime expert who will be joining us on Skype from Rajasthan. Mr. Chaudhary, welcome to The Pulse on Rajya Sabha TV. And we're also being joined by a group of young students on the show today who will be sharing their stories and will be asking questions to the panelists regarding the problem of cyberbullying and also find out possible solutions to this problem worldwide. Mr. Anuj Agarwal, if I may begin the program today with you. In fact, before we get on to discuss the gravity of the problem and find out possible solutions, help us understand the kind of cyberbullying that is prevalent today worldwide, in particular in India today.
What do we understand by cyberbullying? When somebody is harassing other person without his consent, without his intent, so then that person is following the other person. Now there are so many mediums to do it. As you very rightly mentioned, Facebook, which is one of the most prominent medium. Apart from that, it can be anything and everything. It can be an email, it can be WhatsApp messages, it can be on the LinkedIn, and it can follow the person wherever he or she goes. So that's what the gravity of the problem is. You just can't get out of it. You can be in school, you can be at home, you can be at a mall, you can be at a restaurant. This cyberbullying and that person who is following you is always goes with you. So across the world, this is becoming the most prominent problem. You see, earlier there used to be physical bullying, but the law and the society has really taken care of it. So the people who are used to that now have moved to the virtual world, the cyber world. And this is, I think, at least 40% to 50% youngsters especially suffer from this particular menace. Even the adults have been suffering from this in a major way.
Mr. Roy, cyberbullying cases are increasing day by day across the world, in particular in India. Stats suggest that 37% of the parents in the country say that their child has been bullied at least once in life. What are the kind of cyberbullying cases that you come across and how does the police tackle them?
Ma'am, we need to understand that cyberbullying per se, if we go by the definition of crime, cyberbullying per se does not qualify into the category of cognizable criminal offences.
Okay.
Only when it is in an aggravated form For instance, somebody has created a fake profile of a person who is the target of the bullied, and using that profile post something which is detrimental to the target. In that case, that qualifies as an offense of impersonation. Somebody has created an email ID in the name of the target and sent a mail, suppose to the school administration, which is in a way harmful to the target student. That qualifies as a cognizable criminal offense. And the second issue that we face is that most of the time, the victim is a juvenile, that is less than 18 years of age, but at the same time, the person who is actually committing this offense, he or she also is a juvenile and is covered under the Juvenile Justice Act.
Okay.
So the role of police authorities per se in the conventional manner is very limited, in a sense that and registering an FIR, maybe arresting the person, that those scenarios are not possible in these kind of crimes.
Okay, so what you mean to say is that the perpetrators of these crimes are dealt with under the Juvenile Justice Act in the country.
Exactly. Whenever we have got complaints and we have found that the perpetrator, after the initial technical investigation, we found that the person is also a student, maybe of the same class or of a higher class, but most of them are under 18 years of age. So we deal with them under the Juvenile Justice Act. That there are provisions through which we deal with such cases. So it doesn't come under the conventional cognizable criminal offenses. So our focus is more on the prevention side, like creating awareness about how not to become a victim of cyberbullying.
Okay, okay. Dr. Deshpande, if I could come to you and understand, how does cyberbullying affect people? Because as both the gentlemen on the panel pointed out, that it is mostly children that are affected. On both sides, the victims as well as the bullies are mostly youngsters, and they have to be dealt in a particular way. So how does cyberbullying affect both sides?
No, bullying as such is bad for any person, let alone children. And we have in fact laws for bullying against women and so on. And the similar kind of thing applies to students as well. We have this anti-ragging law, which is actually some kind of a bullying only. So the same kind of effect can happen with cyberbullying as well as with regular physical bullying, except that as Agarwal ji said, that cyberbullying can go on indefinitely, and the remarks and the abuses against the child can remain indefinitely on the net. So, as he said, sleep can be affected, tension, stress, fearfulness as to what will happen, because very often the children who are targeted are a little bit different from other children. Maybe they could be somewhat isolated children, or maybe they could be particularly remarkable in some scholastic forum or something like that. So in general, the type of cyberbullying that happens causes a lot of stress, and all the stress related issues such as anxiety, sleep disturbances, appetite disturbances, inability to concentrate on the studies. Many children become fearful, phobic of the school environment because they don't know where all this is coming from. And the sad part of it is that children find it very difficult to confide about this in their parents. So what happens is that they suffer alone, and that is even worse. Feeling lonely, feeling helpless is much worse than facing some kind of a problem which one can tackle with the help of one's social environment. So it is important for parents to recognize that these harmful effects can occur for their children and to be aware of it. Not just the school, but the parents also need to be more aware of the harms of being on the net and the precautions that need to be taken.
Karnika said, all of us here realize that today it has become a serious concern. But do any of our laws in India explicitly define cyberbullying?
The term as such, cyberbullying, has not been defined in neither the IT Act 2000 nor the POCSO. But yes, there are certain ingredients which would be, part of cyberbullying as an activity or as an action. For instance, if somebody is threatening another person, that he would say, make a video and make it viral just to disparage somebody's reputation, maybe a student or otherwise, is also in a way an act of cyberbullying. Similarly, if it is an intimidation, a threat, it would fall under IPC. So, and then if it is an identity theft, it would go under IT Act. So these are all punishable offences up to 3 years of imprisonment and fine. and if it is cheating by personation or if it is clubbed with defamation, similarly, depending on the act itself, whether a particular offence is attracted or not is seen. But by and large, I have seen it, most of the cases of cyberbullying could be categorized into two main parts. One is where there is a hate speech. Somebody wants to express his hatred towards a particular person out of a personal grudge, or it could be about a particular issue that a person is addressing and he is very strong about that issue, and therefore it also has signs of trolling. That is one aspect. Second is where a person is trying to harm another person through gossip or humor. Now those kind of things are a little diluted in this aggravated sense. It's not really there, but they could be aggravated if persistently it's been followed. So the consequences vary accordingly. So cyberbullying as such could have various degrees of cyberbullying, and I feel that right at the inception, when there is an incidence of cyberbullying, it is important to report it, not only to the social media platform if it is on social media, so that they can block it or remove that account, but also to the law enforcement agencies, and even before that to the school counselors.
Yes.
Because the school counselors are immediate access and the parents have immediate access to the kid. So it's very important to encourage the children to really report these problems, and the school counselors need to counsel the perpetrator, for instance, and also the victim. That's very important to do that. The laws are there in place. POCSO is there, IT Act is there, IPC is there. But cyberbullying as such has not been defined under any of the statutes.
Okay, before I come to Dr. Ratnabai, Mr. Roy, one quick question from you. In case the bullies are not teenagers, they are not juveniles, how does the police deal with such perpetrators?
In that case, ma'am, they come under the conventional provisions of law. They will be treated as the criminals, ordinary criminals are treated.
Okay.
As ma'am rightly said, that suppose a person engages into impersonation, creates a fake account or creates a morphed, uses a morphed image and creates an account. In that case, he is also guilty of forgery.
Yes.
And forgery for the purpose of cheating, because there is a harm of the reputation of the person who is being impersonated. So these kind of sections get attracted, and these are serious sections. They entail imprisonment. Some of them entail imprisonment up to 7 years of age. So it is a serious offence, and if the person is not protected under the Juvenile Justice Act, and you see the Juvenile Justice Act also is not an act which protects you and makes you immune to such criminal actions. It is only, its premise is based on the fact that being a child under 18 years of age, you need reform more than imprisonment as a means of intervention. So definitely when under the JJ Act action is taken, parents get involved. So that kind of enforcement is there, and that is for a child involving the parent and coming to third agency, that too is a very uncomfortable situation. So it is not something that it's a cakewalk and you go to a law enforcement office under Juvenile Justice Act. You go to, in fact, the dedicated courts meant for this. It is not that easy. So that too is a punishment. If the person is above 18 years of age, definitely he is charged with these offences, and that has a significant bearing on his or her future career options and things like that. It has a bearing on his life forever. So whenever they indulge into these kind of acts, they should be aware of the consequences of once they are caught, and which is very often it is done because digital footprint is something which is always there.
Okay.
So getting caught is highly probable. So they should be in fact discouraged from getting into such kind of activities.
Dr. Ratnabai, because we're talking about youngsters, how they are affected by cyberbullying, for the first time last year, NCRT came up with guidelines on cyber safety and security for children. So in the last 1 year, what kind of impact have these guidelines made? Have they been effectively implemented? And do you see any kind of changes in the last 365 days to say?
NCRT has come out with this guideline because we had some of the things like which when we could analyze as we have been discussing, the first thing is there is a lot of lack of awareness among the children, teachers as well as the parents. During our sessions when we say that cyberbullying could happen, most of the time the parents are not ready to accept it. They may sometimes accept that the child may be a victim, but none of the parents are ready to accept that their child may be a person who was bullying the other child. So that was some major discussions that was happening in the last 2 years of our discourse with during several conferences and meetings. So it brought us the light that there should be some kind of a guideline. So we came out with 3 guideline booklets, one for teachers, one for school, and one for students. So students, basically it was to-do list, like what to do and what not to do. So the major thing is, as we are discussing here, the terminologies are really not familiar to children at all. As it's not mentioned in the law, like cyberbullying, as it is, the word itself is not familiar to children. And we also know India being a very diverse country, we have a diversity in the way children are exposed to technology also. One way we keep talking about India's, most of the children are exposed. But one side we have children who never knew what is technology still. So we have a kind of children like this. So we made it in a very light sense of what you can do and what you should not do when you are coming online. And for teachers, as it was like most of the time the cases are not shared with parents. The children are not open to talk to parents at all because they feel like it will affect their own schooling. They may change the school, they may lose their friends. So these are very simple reasons.
So in that scenario, don't we also need guidelines for the parents?
Yes.
Because they are the first line of guidance and also the first line of check at home.
Yes.
So if the parents have these do's and don'ts, they understand, they perhaps recognize what their child is going through.
Yeah, in the first phase, we came out only with the guidelines for these 3 groups, and we have circulated to all these states and the State Council for Educational Research and Training. Every state has this education department. So we have circulated through them to all the schools, and we have not given it as a printed material to every child to make it one more book in your bag. Because any book is given to a child now becomes a point of examination. They think that there will be a question, better let me read it off. So what we have done is we are focusing more on giving these guidelines, but orienting the teacher to really bring integrated into the normal classroom. So right now, in the last month, there is a mega training event that has started in our country of training 42 lakh teachers who are dealing with the elementary level, class 1 to 8. So we have single session on POSCO, like it's completely talking about the need, and also in an integrated manner. How do you integrate when you are using technology in your classroom to talk about this bullying and its impact and all that?
Have you got any feedback from these states that you've circulated these guidelines in?
States have circulated to the schools, but we get feedback in terms of some of the teachers who have read. Recently, we got from one of these schools, there was a case of cyberbullying, which has been identified, and the HM has told that it is related to technology, so let computer science teacher handle it.
Okay.
But there was a science teacher who was teaching at the elementary level who has said, like, I have read about this, we need to report it. Because based on the guideline, they have created that awareness and they have expressed it, and they could go in a proper channel, and they have taken the child to the counselor who has bullied the other children. So they could take to the counselor, get the proper counseling as well.
Okay.
So like this, we get some of the case studies reported by teachers directly. So in a very informal manner, because formal manner it's not getting reported because of the reputation of
Certainly, I understand.
school.
So let me bring in Mr. Mukesh Chaudhary as well into the discussion. Mr. Chaudhary, because all of us have been discussing how grave the problem is, so since technology is used for bullying, it's but natural that technological solutions to the problem are also required. So as a cyber law expert, do you have any solutions in mind that can, guide the teachers, the students, in particular when we're dealing with youngsters?
Bullying, first of all, as Anish Roy sir has already said, that bullying is generally not being generally reported to the police stations. Bullying, once it gets extended to some cyber harassment, or you can say cyber harassment is more better term to explain it, or cyber pornography, or maybe defamation, or maybe some abusive words or abusive languages, or cyber pornography related cases related to children. So in certain cases, there can be certain advices. I would like to share a case study. A boy was approached like through Facebook only, and he was asked that whether you are interested to get your question paper for your examination or not. And he was called to a certain place. After that, the boy was kidnapped and he was murdered.
Oh.
So such kind of incidents, such kind of knowledge should be shared. So basically at our lower level, lower education as well as in our higher education, these subjects should be mandatory. So this is one part which should be there. Second part is like for the law enforcement agencies, even though agencies are trying their very level best, but still the problem is with the duty officers who are on the desk and who do not even relate to the problems. And from there itself, that is why most of the cybercrime cases goes unnoticed. Not even 10% of cybercrime cases are getting registered. So platforms are there, but they are not being utilized. So it has to be practically executed. First of all, that is important, more important, rather giving a platform, but no one is aware of it. So awareness, yes, to every school level is there. And on every school or you see any institute level, there should be a cyber cell where they can report either by name or by their contact detail or anonymously. So every institute should have this, since Government of India has also taken this good initiative, as Anish Roy sir has already told, that cybercrime.gov.in is the portal on which you can report by your name, by your contact detail, as well as anonymously, for women and children at least.
Let me bring in some students into the discussion, because we are largely discussing about how cyberbullying affects youngsters. They are at the receiving end, and also in cases they are the ones who are bullying their friends or maybe, the other acquaintances. So if anybody of you have had similar stories, who've been bullied by somebody online, and what have you done after that?
Hi, I'm Garima. Right now I'm working. Actually, one incident happened that one of my friends, he hacked my phone and he saved some of my personal messages, and then he tried to blackmail me that he can make them viral. And I just did not know if this is a crime or not. I just told him that I can report against you, but honestly I did not know what should I do. I tried to find something online, I could not find it. So basically the thing is, most of us are not even aware what we can report to, and if we want to, where we should go for it.
Okay.
So if anyone can tell me that what kind of crime it is. And
okay, I'll take your question to Mr. Roy, but in case we can take 2-3 questions and then we'll come back to the panelists in one go.
Hello, I'm Surbi and I'm from IMC. So I have a personal experience where I have a cousin. He is maybe 12 years old, and I don't know how, but what we realized from the way he behaves, that he has watched a lot of porn. I don't know how, or maybe who has shown him all that. But what laws do we have in India as far as porn is concerned? It is so easily available on internet. Everyone can easily access it. So how is it what stand do we have for it in our country?
All right, one more question.
My name is Tavleen and I am 16 years old, studying in Alcan Public School. I have seen that the awareness in parents, like the people who are working for, like, there are maids in our house, they don't really know about cyberbullying. Like you said that you have given guidelines, they don't know about the guidelines, they're illiterate. So what are the solution to get them aware about it? Like people, like everybody have internet now these days, everyone have Jio and all. So there are children who are going to government schools, not speaking English well, they are bullied really badly. So what is the solution to get them out of it, to make them aware, and the hesitation they have to reach the law, the police.
Definitely.
They have the hesitation, like the social pressure, what they will say. So what is the solution for
Mr.
this?
Roy, let me bring that question to you.
Ma'am, as far as reporting is concerned, now the Government of India has come up with the Ministry of Home Affairs. It has come up with a cybercrime reporting portal, cybercrime.gov.in. So all kinds of cybercrime, including bullying, online harassment, can be reported on this online portal, and it will land to the concerned jurisdictional police station or the state cybercrime authority, and they will, depending on the gravity of the situation, suppose it involves child sexual abuse material, as one of the persons in the audience said. In that case, it is taken up very seriously. The state level cybercrime investigation agency, it deals with it directly. As far as the blocking of the content is concerned, taking immediate legal action is concerned, they deal it. Okay. If it involves other kind of routine cyber crimes, in that case it is dealt with the district level or the police station level investigation teams. So online reporting is there. At the same time, the awareness part, every state, every police unit is dealing with it in different ways. For instance, in Delhi Police, we are actually engaging with the school teachers.
Okay.
So we, as a strategy, our police station and the district level authorities, they go to the schools and they make the schools aware of, the children aware of various threats on cyberspace, including on social media. We at the headquarter level, we engage with the school computer teachers, and where no computer teacher is there, the teacher who ordinarily deals with these kind of issues.
Okay.
And we have been conducting workshops for the computer teachers. So it is a one-day workshop in which we call the teachers, and they are basically sensitized about the various cyber safety issues which we have noticed as law enforcement agencies, and also tell them about ways and means through which they can intervene in this.
And are there sensitization workshops within the department as well? Because more often, as she also pointed out, I also know of a few cases where the police is not too keen on reporting these cases. So there is obviously a rampant need to sensitize those in the police who should understand the gravity of the problem.
Definitely, ma'am. And this is a continuous process. So the sensitization, you see, the sensitization started with sensitization about sexual harassment, for instance. Now, as cyberspace is gaining prominence, the sensitization has now moved to how various activities or various harassment could be, performed using cyberspace. That kind of sensitization and how the law actually, because there are special acts for, IT-related crimes, cyber crimes. So sensitization and training on these issues are being done on a continuous basis. And it is a continuous process which is being done, including the sensitization of not only the specialists in the field, like those who are investigators. At the cutting edge level, our head constables, our constables, they are also being sensitized in the form of basic training material. When they go for their basic training, they are taught about these aspects. Refresher training, they have refresher training courses about 6 months, 1 year. They are told about how to address cybercrime, what are the various natures of cybercrime. So all these things are being continuously done, and the reporting part is very important. So online reporting is there. Everybody who feels that there is a cybercrime which is taking place, be it with your immediate family members, be it somebody who is working in your house, I think you can report it online, and thereafter the natural course of the law will take place.
Okay. Mr. Agarwal, to the point that he made regarding the training of personnel, as a law enforcement trainer, are you taking care of all these things?
Yes, of course, but you see the technology proliferation has taken place so fast, and the number of policemen across the country are around 15 lakh. It is taking a lot of time before everybody is trained, sensitized and made aware of. And that's a big task.
Okay.
So what we need to do is, of course, we need to train physically, personally, but that's not going to be possible any time in near future. So we need to create a lot of small videos. And I have also recently written a guidebook for the law enforcement agencies that how to handle these investigations. So this is, I think, a multi-pronged approach we will have to take. And what is also happening, unfortunately, from the society as well as sometimes from the law enforcement perspective, that people are in the denial mode,
yes,
which is very risky. Neither anybody in the society, including parents, teachers, counselors, nor anybody in the law enforcement should take it very lightly. Very recently, there is an incident happened with a lady who is working as a air hostess, and she reported the matter, but it was somehow taken lightly. And she went into depression. So I think it is very important that whenever at the beginning somebody reports, it must be taken seriously by everyone, including parents, social as well as law enforcement, and it has to be tackled then and there.
Yes, because we've seen in recent years the deadly consequences it's happening.
If it goes beyond that, the person comes to the psychiatrist, and then the person comes to the senior officers, and then they go to the legal person. No, it becomes multitude of the problems. Yes. Otherwise, if it is tackled at the early stage, I think it can be easily resolved, as you very rightly said, that they are very well equipped and the people can be tracked. So nobody should feel that they can take this route of anonymity and create this kind of a nuisance in the society. No more.
Stringent action must be taken at the earliest. Yes.
But there has to be some sensitization from everybody that please tackle it at the earliest.
Last 20 years, I have been a trainer myself to the National Police Academy and the Judicial Academy, BPR&D, CBI Academy, Now, all these institutions are actually geared up and they're working towards creating awareness in the police force as well as judiciary, because that is equally important. So, we've been trying to do that, and there have been guidebooks. Like, for example, for POCSO, for sexual harassment against children or cyberbullying or other activities, there was a guidebook which I also authored with, for NCPCR, and there lots of, police officers, they're basically getting a guidance on what offense is attracted when these ingredients are present. So that becomes a key book for them. That is also, those kind of actions are also simultaneously adding to the knowledge bank, what we need to sensitize people with.
Yes, Dr.
But here are two social questions. One question was that a young child was, easily exposed to pornography, and the other was how to make people aware of the type of things that are happening online. What we have observed is that parents are very proud when they see that their child is on the computer all the time or on the phone all the time. And what happens is with these kind of issues, when the child is there on the online all the time, more exposure is bound to happen, more exploration is bound to happen, because young children like to explore things. And that is the age when sexual maturity is happening, and through gossip or through sharing, these kind of issues become, viral. So what needs to be done as far as we psychiatrists are concerned, and which we have been emphasizing again and again, is that everything has a place in life. So emphasizing one at the cost of the other is not good. For a person to get hooked to pornography, he would have been deprived of other things, So if a person is well rooted in reality, in real friends, in real games, in real life, then the exposure online becomes proportionate. And there it's much more likely to be based on use rather than on misuse. In the same way, you are asking how will the lowest social strata come to know about these kind of issues? Well, it's through people like us who know about it, who can share that knowledge, and who can give small dollops of gyan to everybody who's with you.
But cyber pornography is a crime. I mean, rest assured, this is a crime in India, and people are not aware whether some people are grooming the other child, that's known as grooming, enticing the child into pornography. He or she may not be aware why he's asking about my hobbies or interests on social media, and they'll end up discussing certain things which are not meant for their age. And it is the duty of the parent also to set guidelines at home, to set up some filtering mechanisms, because internet is such a space where you cannot filter out every and everything.
You have access to unlimited activities and information.
And it is a crime to publish or to create or to make, circulate, browse child pornography. Even browsing is an offense. So 5 years of punishment or more. I mean, this is the kind of law we have in the country. Problem becomes the enforcement. The moment you block a particular link on reporting child porn on this particular website, there will be another link which will pop up and create the same. So one has to be vigilant to report these problems.
Okay, Dr. Ratnabai, you wanted to add something?
The question she was asking, like how you are creating awareness among the people who are uneducated and all that. It doesn't actually, there is nothing called uneducated are not aware and educated are aware. That's what we have seen in our experience also. And the guidebooks which we are given, also we are trying to translate to all the languages, because English being a problem, like many of the people are not able to read it, even children or teachers in that case. So we are also in the process of translating it to all the Indian languages which can be circulated to the thing. And there are many other organizations also working on it. Just going to the field and then doing it. What we are focusing from the education point of view is when the teacher is oriented to the core. In most of our case studies, what we find is the teachers are calling for parents' meetings. It's not like a meeting, it's like a one-day event for parents. So they just call them up, who's even in the government. It's this, whatever I'm bringing out is from the government school, where most of the parents are working in like a daily wages kind of thing, who is not very well exposed to the technical world. So those parents are called, but not as a guideline, not as a lecture, but they do role plays. They just do a small drama. They bring out the situation, how it can happen in your house. And then they make them understand this is all creating a child problem in your child.
These days, platforms like Amazon Prime, Netflix have a lot of content which, are not meant for a certain age group. Especially when we talk about the when you're just, entering our teenage. However, from what I have heard and I've experienced myself, kids of these age are, the ones who basically they have access to such shows at the drop of a hat. And the result of this is that, it's seeming very normal to them to use that kind of language or to adapt that kind of behavior, which ultimately, lets them bully people around themselves. So, like, what should be done in such a case? Because ultimately it is going to affect someone, especially, I mean, more than physically, it might hurt someone mentally.
Yes.
Because if they're repeatedly bullied by someone. So that's my question.
Ma'am, do you want to take up that question?
Yeah, well, there's just one answer to that, that is respect for persons. So if the family, if the parent from the childhood teaches the child to respect other people, respect other people's rights, respect other people's privacy, then this kind of thing should not happen. Not only that, this is something that we've been talking repeatedly, that parents need to keep an eye on their children. They need to be involved, they need to be communicating with the child regularly so that they know what is happening. See, when a child doesn't suddenly start using abusive language or behaving in a disinhibited manner, it's a behavior which gradually builds up over a period of time. And therefore, even though we are all working, even though we are all busy, we all need to find some time.
Yes,
to be
I believe
with
the
each other
problem
and talk
today
to
is
each
that
other.
we all of us have nuclear families. We don't spend much time with our child, and that's why we are not able to identify what our child is going through. So perhaps are there any indications, any signs through which that can help parents to identify if they're being
She's already
cyberbullied
stated
online?
one of them, that is using the abusive language, or if the child is being bullied, the child's personality may suddenly change. They may become quieter, more withdrawn, acting frightened sometimes, maybe refusing to go to school, or becoming very aggressive, irritable.
Okay.
So either poles of behavior can happen, and that is when the person is a victim. But if a person is, if the child is behaving, disinhibitedly, the parent has to go to the source. So within a family, it's much easier for a parent to find out what's happening. In a school, the teacher is dealing with 50 children. She hardly has any time.
Yes.
Also,
So, but in a school, in a home, a parent is dealing with 2 or 3 children. So those are the type of awareness that a parent will have to develop. Just as a parent develops awareness about their daughters going out, who she is going out with, whom she is talking out with. In our society, that's very common.
Yes.
In the same way, they need to as well find out what their son is doing. And as I've already said this, being proud that a person is always on, the child is always on the phone or on the computer is not a good thing.
Yeah, also talking about possible solutions, while the legal framework is there, legal regulation may not be there so developed in terms of internet regulation today, because lots of things are in the news, how to control fake news, for instance, or how to control or remove child pornography. That itself is a big problem, on the internet. While the regulation takes its own course, technical solutions are still available.
Yes.
Like we can do filtering on their router level or the Wi-Fi level itself.
So there is an option of parental control.
Yeah, we can put
in
a
the
parental
router as
control
well as
on
in
the browser level.
both. So the
On the
unwanted
hardware level
contents
also.
can be censored. And you see, it's very similar. There has to be something called net etiquette. As a parent will not allow a child to drive a car before he or she gets to say 18 years of age, similarly the internet access has to be restricted. I'm not saying stopped at all, because it is obviously a knowledge source also, but it has to be similarly restricted, and the child has to be told the net etiquettes, what to watch, what not to watch. So I think it is a guiding, it is hand holding. A lot of parents are actually trying to stop. Now that stop becomes more of a craving, let's see what is there, why they are stopping.
Yes.
So I think no stopping.
Perhaps when you
just
start
guiding.
curbing,
What I meant to say,
there
there
are
has to be
chances
some
that it might
grooming, there has
happen.
to
there
be
have to
guiding.
be technical solutions which we can employ apart from the legal framework and
Sure,
the solutions
sure.
which already
Dr. Ratnabhai.
exist.
But most of the time, the challenge in such cases is coming as she pointed out. See, now even the parents have become very familiar with such shows, and even the language of the things which they watch is used by parents at home, where the children are not able to differentiate that it is bullying. because the most of, like some of the schools, when they call us, because we have given guideline, they call us sometime personally to find out we have such a case, like how to deal it. So when we ask, the major point is the child says, this is something my parent used, I also used. So it's not about always we think parent have to watch a child, but here there is a problem with the parent itself.
Certainly.
So one of the things we see is now it's not about educating like on the terminologies. Some of the time when we have these trainings, most of the time the training goes as talking about types of cyberbullying. This is what it is. But the reality is, first of all, they should understand where to differentiate, which is becoming really a challenge for a teacher to identify, even for a child. When fun becomes really bullying, how can we define it? We don't have a definition. We are trying to tell them, for some child it's okay, for some child it goes beyond. So it's like very, very critical and very complicated even sometimes in a social manner to identify cyberbullying in the school level with children.
Mr. Mukesh Chaudhary, apart from what the parents and the teachers' role should be in controlling their parents' access to internet, when we come back to the point of cyberbullying, this is something which requires technical solutions, as Karnika said, pointed out. In your opinion, do you think artificial intelligence can in any way help fight online bullying?
Definitely, artificial intelligence can help a lot. If like tools can be developed for each system, which can analyze the behavior of every internet user, what you are surfing and how you are surfing, and if you will be doing this, so what will be your next action? Sometimes there are certain websites. If you open those websites, there will be certain pop-ups, maybe some songs or movies or torrents you are downloading. So there will be certain porn or adult videos also. Okay. So if you get attracted towards it and then someone compromise your computer system, maybe someone is using your webcam remotely after compromising your machine. So if this is your trend, if this is your behavior, every internet user's behavior can be analyzed, and artificial intelligence can show you the alerts that this can happen and this incident will be further, or these kind of attacks or malwares can infect your computer system, and they can detect and block it in association or in tie-up with the antivirus or anti-malware solutions you have in your computer system.
Okay.
There are licenses, like you have a child account in Google, you can actually have a license key for a child to view it. Okay. That will filter out the adult content, whereas the Netflix parent license will be different from the child. A lot of people are not even aware, they're not putting those protocols there.
Mr. Agarwal, because technology these days is on our fingertips, can we devise mechanisms, can we have mobile applications, maybe something that can alert the parents if their children are venturing into these
yes.
strict no areas?
Very good question you've asked. I think this is one of the ways the parent can continuously monitor the activity of the child, because most of the parents these days, the husband as the wife, both are working, and I think for the good thing. So there are applications which are available commercially in the market, which if implemented on the mobile or on the computer can discreetly inform the parents either on a regular basis or on a sample basis that the activities of their child, and then remotely they can either stop the entire thing or they can guide their child away from that. And it is very similar as you put a remote camera and monitor your house, that if somebody is walking into your house in your absence, it is similar to that you can put that kind of an application in your mobile which you are giving to your child or the computer, and you can keep monitoring from wherever you are. So I think
certainly,
you are free.
That can be a big help to parents who are not physically present with their children 24/7.
You are free to pursue your profession, and you can still connect with your child and its activities, and then you can guide the child, because most of the time it also happens that the children are not going to these sites intentionally. They somehow land there, because while they are searching or browsing something else, they simply land up there. Similarly, from their behavioral point of view, they may not be very aware that what they are doing, if they are following somebody, they are putting certain words in somebody's Facebook or on the WhatsApp, they are actually bullying or actually threatening. Because for them it may look like a normal behavior, as somebody rightly pointed out, that it is happening in their house, so they think it is very normal.
Yes.
While the other person, the other child is taking it as an offense.
Because perhaps they don't know where to draw the line. For them, maybe it's fun.
So I think the parent, they must use these kind of facilities. They are technically available and at a fraction of cost. I mean, they are not at all costly, and they must do it. And the net etiquette and little bit control on the usage of the internet, at least in the absence of the elders in the house, has to be there.
Okay, but Dr. Deshpande, could this have a negative impact on the psyche of children?
The oversight has to be benevolent, and it has to be understood to be benevolent. So we come back again to that point that the parents are after all the protectors of their children, and the children should view them as such. So some amount of to and fro communication must be there. And as ma'am very rightly said, yes, children model their parents. So the biggest factor that we have found in tobacco use of children is tobacco use by parents. Similarly with alcohol use by parents and alcohol use by, so whatever parents do, children do tend to imitate, and therefore parents also at some point need to control their behavior, no doubt about it. But there is no reply, there is no alternative to open communication between the parents and the children, no matter how much time they can give to each other.
Okay.
Even smallest or the largest chunk of time.
Okay, very quickly, one more round of questions.
Ilana, and I'm a student at IIMC. So recently on Instagram, I saw this case where a company was accused of not paying its collaborators and fashion bloggers, and that became a pretty bad fight. They started making snarky comments at each other, and to a point where it actually got personal. So my question is, if I'm what happened there was the victim had actually taken on the role of a perpetrator in itself. So it had become a very endless cycle of bullying each other.
Yes.
So my question is, if I'm a victim and I'm being bullied, and for the sake of defending myself, and will I also be termed a bully if I have to defend myself by fighting fire with fire?
Mr. Roy, if you could, if you would want to take that question, because what she said is actually true to us as well. So when somebody, trolls us, writes something on our wall, it's a misconception that you go back and troll that person, fill that person's wall with a lot of hate, and perhaps it's a tit for that and justice is done. But this, of course, is not the solution.
I think that will fuel the whole thing, and aggravate it further.
Yes.
So I think there are decent civilized ways of responding to such kind of falsehood or any defamatory or offensive content if it is posted. And in case of children, we ask them to get out of harm's way. This is the first thing that they should do. For a grown-up adult, definitely that is not the case. You have a social media presence, you cannot get out of that. You need to be present there for various social and personal professional reasons. So you respond in a dignified manner, and after that, if it is still persisting, I think it needs to be reported depending on the gravity of the thing. If it involves a cognizable criminal offense, report it to the police. Suppose there is a sexual overtone involved into it, some kind of online harassment is involved into it with a lady, a victim. In that case, it needs to be reported to the police. Okay. If it involves something which is related to the workplace, I think it can be escalated to the senior managers of the institution. So these kind of responses are better than
yes, trolling again.
So for murder, there is a self-defense as an exception. Okay, you can defend yourself, but the law doesn't allow you to retaliate in the sense that if there is an online defamation, you also come back and defame the other person, because that is not excusable. That will in fact give him a cause of action to sue you for defamation.
And perhaps that's what those who troll you or those who bully you want. They want attention, and by replying them, perhaps you are giving them that much needed attention.
There are ways within the platforms to tackle these kind of situations, because these are not new. So you can report these to the platform, yes, or you can simply block the person for some time. When it becomes so hot from either side, it is going to be endless. So there are very civilized ways within the platform. Most of the platforms provide it. You can simply block the person maybe for some time only. You need not block him forever. Or you can report the matter to the platform itself before you go to the law enforcement. Unless it is going to be threatened to your life or something, you can simply do that way. There is no point making and aggravating yourself, because obviously there is the law does not permit at all to anybody create another harm just to tackle the harm. I mean that's not at all permitted.
At least in childhood and in schools, very often just the identification and tackling, the face-to-face tackling of a bully damps down their activities. Because at some point of time, bullies, okay, they want attention, but they're also scared. So, merely by identifying and warning the bully itself, at least in the school situation, the action is often clipped in the bud. But as our experts have been saying, you can't keep fighting fire with fire, just because somebody
One
abused you, you
interesting
can't abuse them
case
back.
I want
Yes,
to
yes,
discuss,
yes,
which
please
I've
go ahead.
handled. Okay, this lady, she was staying in US. She was an Indian person, but staying there, and her family was there. She was being cyberbullied by a perpetrator based out of another country, not India and not US.
Okay.
So third country, and he made about 15-20 websites putting all her personal details, the cards she had shared, the personal pictures, and he was constantly bullying her on social media. So as a result, what we did was we sent legal notices to the registrars of the websites. Through whois.net, you can actually find out who is the owner of a particular website. And so when we sent the legal notices to the hosting companies as well as the registrars of those domain names, those websites and those particular messages were all blocked. They were terminated. Their accounts were terminated from social media also. All these fake accounts, several fake accounts were created by the same person. So they were all blocked and his IP was blocked. So he could not create further any new accounts from those portals. So it is possible even without using court mechanism, or one could really suspend all these sites and the material was totally taken away in 36 to 48 hours time.
But through agencies help you can possibly do it, but at individual level maybe it's quite taxing to go through the entire process.
One of the class 10 child during one of the conference, he just came up to speak about how he has taken care of himself. He just told this as a description there. He was trained, he studies in one of the top schools in that place in Kolkata. So he was just telling, I have got a lot of training, my teacher has got training, but nothing can stop me from being a victim of this or causing somebody to become a victim. Only thing that can happen is what I value for myself. So that's all can be done at an individual level until I take a stand on this is what my value. She was asking a question like they will be fighting. Even in a normal society, when somebody abuse you, we don't ask them like you abuse them back. That's a culture we have come with, right? So the only thing is we need to think about, mostly the problem is we don't think that is a virtual world and this is a real world. So we think we are hidden, as very rightly pointed out in the previous discussions. So until each person realizes that this is also a place where the footprints are there, and as we cannot do in real world, anything you can't do in real world cannot be done in a cyberspace also. That realization is very much required.
Dr. Deshpande, let me take one concluding remark from you. We're running out of time. But as adults, when we are trolled online, we're emotionally strong and we deal with it in several ways that doesn't push us into depression or towards anxiety.
Adults,
Significant number, but compared to the younger children who they're not emotionally as strong, and if they do not confide in the parents, how can we help such children who face bullying online, don't confide in parents, don't confide in teachers? How can they be helped?
frankly, I don't know, because unless the child comes out and tells, and that is our basic issue. That is what we would like the children to do. We advise the children to do. We advise the parents to find out what is wrong. When a child comes to us with changed personality, changed behavior, maybe school refusal, a refusal to eat, refusal to sleep, it is often the people who are there in their day-to-day life who are able to make out their friends. You see, the parents need to know who their child's friends are, because sometimes the friends are able to give a clue as to what is ailing the child. Who is the person who is likely to be bullying the child, and in that sense the parents need to be very alert, because children feel scared. You see, they are scared of bullying and sometimes they feel ashamed. When a child is bullied, he himself, the child himself or herself also feels guilty by association, and therefore it is for the adults in that child's environment to make out what is happening, to keep a keen eye out for what is happening. In the school, maybe the teacher can look at behavioral changes in the children, sudden academic loss, or isolation from other children, and report the matter to the parents.
There is a
just
need
want
to
to
build
add
a
a point
trust
to-
among
Sure,
all
sir.
the
I'll come back
stakeholders,
to you.
the parents with the child, teachers, counselors and the law enforcement. And that local ecosystem in a trust mode has to work so that whenever there is a problem starting, it can be reported to the next level and if required can reach to the law enforcement.
All right. So what we've been discussing over the past 1 hour on the discussion with an eminent panel today is that cyberbullying is far more rampant and serious than we make out to be. But the answer to online bullying and trolling is not to troll the perpetrator, because that way, as we've discussed earlier as well, the vicious cycle would continue and continue. So we need to teach our children to stand up to bullying, but that does not mean flooding the wall of the bully with much more hate. We need to make them aware of ways to deal with the problem at multiple levels, at homes, in schools, and of course the society also collectively owes a responsibility. It is the responsibility of parents, teachers, as well as the society, as I said, to work towards preventing and reporting cyberbullying. So thank you to all my guests today for joining us on this edition of The Pulse and sharing your perspective with us. Thank you to the audience as well for sharing your stories, asking wonderful questions to the panelists.